Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the class BMN 504, Foundations of Buddhist Thought, Part 1. Today is May 23rd, 2022. Hope you all are doing great, and we are coming towards the end of our class, maybe 2 more weeks to go. Remember, next week we don't have class since it is the Memorial Day. So May 30th, we do not have the class. But before that, this week, the 23rd of May, our topic is, emergence of Abhidhamma and Theravada. By now, some of you at least may know what Abhidhamma is, and the other important term here is Theravada. Abhidhamma, Dhamma, the word Dhamma or Dharma, it has many meanings, but here we understand it as the teachings of the Buddha. Teachings of the Buddha is called Dhamma. So Abhidhamma is what? When you use the prefix Abhi in front of Dhamma, it means usually it is translated as higher Dhamma or extra, something higher than the original Dhamma, original teachings of the Buddha. Then with that definition, you might get the idea that Abhidhamma is something extra. In a way, yes. In a way, yes. Abhidhamma is actually it's the system developed by the Buddhist disciples. The Buddha gave the initial beginning in his teachings, in his discourses, and the monks, his disciples, developed these teachings into a very systematic network, and that system is called Abhidhamma. So what you find in Abhidhamma is nothing else, the extended version of the Buddha's basic teachings, what he delivered, what he had given in the Tripitaka. Abhidhamma also becomes one of the baskets of the 3 Pitakas, Sutra, Vinaya, and Abhidharma, right? So Abhidharma itself is one of the baskets of the Tripitaka, 3 baskets. So somehow the origin of this system started when the Buddha was alive. The purpose of Abhidhamma is to elaborate certain teachings of the Buddha so that the others can understand it more clearly. It's like it's not a commentary rather, but it is sort of giving extra explanations, I would say. So the term goes like Abhidhamma, higher teachings. Higher in the sense, in the sutras, in the discourses, usually the Buddha uses day-to-day language. Like a person. We know that there is no person. When we were talking about the not self theory, non-self theory, we saw that there is no person. Only certain elements exist. They exist in the sense that they do not exist actually. Keeps moving. So in that scenario, in that type of setting, you cannot recognize things as it is. No entities, only a process in the world, in within and without, outside also, it's a process. But in day-to-day language, we have to use the terms like a man, a book, whatever, table, and things like that. And day-to-day parlance, day-to-day usage, we have to use those terms. But in Abhidhamma, what you find is you do not use those kind of how do I say, usage, those kind of usage. Technical terms are used in terms of identifying things. Man, person, things like that, you don't find in there. You find instead of, you might say 5 aggregates, something like that. So it is a technical way of explaining the Buddha's teaching. When you use the technical terms, it is understood in a given context. Other than in the earlier sutras, the Buddha's teachings were very open, very natural discussions or conversations. But in Abhidhamma, it is rather a very systematic teaching. Selected words are used to explain the Buddha's teaching, to expand it, to develop it in other sense. So in that sense, Abhidhamma is a development of the earlier Buddhist teachings. When did it happen? It started during the time of the Buddha himself. And later, it developed to a so higher level that after centuries of the passing of the Buddha, the monks were able to expand these things to a very higher level, and it became a big system in the Buddhist tradition. So in the Tripitaka, when you talk about the Tripitaka, the 3 baskets where the Buddha's teachings are contained, one of the baskets is Abhidhamma. It's highly philosophical, not like day-to-day. You don't find like similes and analogies and things like that. Usually when the Buddha was giving Dhamma talks, giving sermons, giving discourses, he was using the day-to-day language, day-to-day analogies, day-to-day similes and things like that. But in Abhidhamma, you never find those things, only rational words, rational usage, rational thinking, philosophical terms, and things like that. So it is for the higher minds. Abhidhamma is for the intellectual higher minds, not for the average people. So in that sense, it is higher Dhamma. Only the higher developed mind can grasp the meanings of the Abhidhamma, that whatever the things that are talked in there, only a given group of people or given in a given context only that could be understood. Whereas in the earlier Buddhist teachings, when the Buddha was having discussions and conversations with the others, encounters with the others, he was just freely using the words. Sometimes those words could be interpreted in 1 or 2 or maybe 3, 4 ways. But in Abhidhamma, no, only technical terms, those could be used in very selective way. So that is Abhidhamma, and Abhidhamma is very big, huge, vast collection of books, usually 7 volumes of books. And in later, when the Tripitaka was written down in Sri Lanka, that was like 5th century, about 5th century CE. No, so sorry. The Tripitaka was written down in Sri Lanka in the 1st century BCE, 1st century BCE. That is like roughly like 500 years after the passing of the Buddha, for at least 450 years after the passing of the Buddha. When Tripitaka was written down in Sri Lanka, it was the final. It became a closed canon afterwards. And in the 5th century, the commentaries were written on those things. And now we know that Abhidhamma is a great collection of Buddhist teachings in a very systematic, presented in a very systematic, rational way. And that is Abhidhamma. That is a development of the Buddha's teaching after his passing. And another thing, based on today's topic, so emergence of Abhidhamma happens in India itself, and it developed in Sri Lanka and perhaps in some other South Asian countries. With that, also another movement came into existence, which is called Theravada. Theravada. Thera means elder monk. Vada means the way or the theory, the vision. So Theravada is the way of the elders, if you want to translate it into English. Way of the elders. You know by now, Theravada is a Buddhist school. Even today, you find in many parts of the world, Theravada Buddhism flourishing in many different countries. So that is the oldest Buddhist school. You know that there are Mahayana, Vajrayana, and Tantrayana, and many other schools. Out of those things, the oldest tradition is called Theravada. Actually, the teaching that we were learning throughout this course, those teachings are based on the Theravada Pali canon. One of the common things in Theravada Buddhism is that they believe, or they put their complete trust on the original texts, which is Pali canon. So the language of communication for Theravada is Pali. Pali is they believe it as the sacred language. And like, you know, in Hebrew and other religions, just like that, Pali is a kind of sacred language to Theravada Buddhism. If you want to learn about Theravada, at least you have to have a little understanding about Pali language. So Theravada as a school, it started perhaps in India, you know, after like 100 years later of the passing of the Buddha. There were some what you may call the division, schism, 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 or among the monks. They differed in certain things. They had arguments and disagreements. So they had divisions into many different schools. So out of those schools, one of the very strong one is Theravada. When Buddhism was introduced into Sri Lanka in the 3rd century BCE, that is by Venerable Mahinda, the son of King Ashoka. When he introduced Buddhism into Sri Lanka, it is usually believed that he took to Sri Lanka nothing else but Theravada Buddhism. So Sri Lanka became the hub of Theravada Buddhism, the center of Theravada Buddhism. Even today, that recognition is there because the texts were protected over there, and they were written down over there over the over the many centuries, and so it is taken as the center of Theravada Buddhism. And what are the beliefs? What are the practices of Theravada Buddhism? Basically, there are many, but remember that Theravada Buddhism or Theravada tradition relies highly, very highly on the Pali Canon. Pali Canon is the highest thing for them. If there is no something mentioned in the Pali Canon, then they are not ready to accept it. That's why during the development of Buddhist schools, that they had rivalry, they had opponents when the other groups are trying to adjust things according to the time, according to the locality and things like that. Theravada was really against, because they want to follow the book, by the book. So they were in a way what you may call very traditional, not ready to change things. That is one of the criticisms leveled against Theravada Buddhism. So you can argue both ways. It is good that they kept their tradition intact with relying on the original texts and original teachings. And in other situations, some may argue that if you are trying to keep the tradition alive like that, it is impossible because of the different times and different localities. So you can argue both ways. Somehow, we are not going to talk on those things, but I'm just giving you an introduction. Who is Theravada? What is Theravada? What are their beliefs? When I raised the question, what are their beliefs? The things that we were discussing also already in our classes, in like 5-6 classes now, we were talking about the cardinal or core Buddhist teachings. Those are the teachings that Theravada Buddhism upholds, Theravada Buddhism believes. They are relying on the Tripitaka, basic structure, basic teachings, and then they have many different practices based on those teachings. That is a development. The practices develops, when in different cultures, whenever Theravada Buddhism arrived in a different culture, it assimilated, it got adjusted to the situation. And that made a different practices, like venerating the Buddha, offering things to the Bodhi tree and having blessings and things like that. That is culture. Buddhist culture developed based on the Buddhist teachings of Theravada. So those are the different things, but the teachings, basic teachings that we were talking, they are intact, they are the same. Excuse me. So many different Theravada countries in South and Southeast Asia, especially as I told you, Sri Lanka, Myanmar or Burma, Thailand, Cambodia, excuse me, Cambodia and Laos and the countries like that. Even today now in the United States, the Western world, you find Theravada flourishing in different communities. In Sri Lanka, I mean, in United States, many different Theravada centers. And Vipassana meditation, we were talking about Vipassana meditation. It was popularized. It became popular with the help of Theravada Buddhist practitioners. So that belongs to Theravada tradition. In that way, we know now it is a development. Theravada school of Buddhism is a development from the original teachings of the Buddha, and still, right up to now, 2,500 years perhaps, long tradition, still alive, still intact, still flourishing in the world. And one of the other things that are related with today's topic is that Theravada Buddhism accepts Abhidhamma as one of the core things in Buddhism. Abhidhamma or higher teachings are compiled by most of the elders, Thera, right? Elders means old monk, old, not in the sense that we use the word today, elder monks. So their theory, their vision, their way is Abhidhamma. So they gave a lot of effort to compile and protect and safeguard the teachings by, interpreting them and making certain adjustments. They were able to keep the tradition alive. So Theravada and Abhidhamma go in hand in hand. There were some other schools in Buddhism where Abhidhamma was also very popular among those schools, like Sarvastivada and many other. But Theravada Abhidhamma has become so popular all over the world. So these two, Abhidhamma and Theravada, is like two sides of the same coin. So you can read more. For more information, you can read the text, and also you can do little research online by putting little effort. And then that is the introduction of Abhidhamma and Theravada. So that is it for today. And you will get the homework assignment where you can enhance your understanding about these two things, these two topics. If you have any questions, please feel free to contact me through email, and I will help you further assist you. And remember that next week we do not have class. May 30th is a holiday. Enjoy your holiday. Thank you very much.